This is the Transforming Anxiety podcast with Kelly Hanlon McCormick, and today is episode number 221, Anxiety as an Alarm. Welcome to Transforming Anxiety. I'm your host, Kelly McCormick. I'm a mom to 2 boys, a wife, friend, daughter, and sister, and I'm a certified life coach, yoga teacher, and soon-to-be mindfulness meditation teacher. I'm no stranger to anxiety, and I'm here to teach you how to manage your mind and your emotions so that you too can transform anxiety into calm, peace, and whatever you want for your life. I'm so glad you're here. Hey there, welcome in today. How are ya? How are things? We've got my older son went on a school trip to Washington, D.C., and some of my other family went to Colorado. So I feel like this past week, my family dispersed from Kansas City, east and west. But I'll be back here soon, which will be good to have everybody at home. I feel like I was holding the fort down with houses and pets and just keeping everything running here back at the ranch. It'll be good to have everybody back. But listen, okay, today, this is kind of a fun one. I love this idea. I wanted to share this with you. I've been talking about this on calls with students and in groups a lot the past couple of weeks, and I thought I just need to do an episode about it and share it with you as well. Today, we're going to talk about anxiety, but more specifically, your nervous system being activated, like as an alarm. I want to think about it from that perspective. It's like your internal danger alert system. So actually, let's start by going back to the basics a bit, back to the beginning, back to what is anxiety? Because this is an important reminder and it's a good first step in this conversation for sure. Plus, honestly, some of these things are just good to review. They're good to remember from time to time so that we have a good handle on what's what. All right, so quick and dirty review. When you start feeling anxious, like maybe your palms are getting sweaty or your heart is pounding or you're a little nauseous or short of breath, and emotionally, you'd maybe describe it like I'm freaking out or I'm going to have a meltdown or I'm losing it. Something in that family. It feels distinctly uncomfortable, right? Both physically and emotionally. And mentally, you may notice that your mind is racing with a million thoughts, and maybe you feel like you can't grab hold of them or slow them down or even really identify them because your mind is just spinning nonstop, right? This is anxiety. It's the result of your fight or flight stress response being activated. This is what happens when your nervous system gets tripped and your sympathetic, that one branch, the sympathetic branch of your nervous system, turns on the stress response. You feel anxious, right? So here's what I want to get into today. Your stress response is getting activated by little triggers, little cues in your environment. Your brain detects movement in your periphery, right? And you jump a little. Or someone makes a cutting remark about your work and you feel your stomach drop. Or your partner ignores a request you made of them and you feel stressed by the dismissal. So these little or not so little cues tip your brain off and alert your nervous system that there's a potential threat in the area. Now, I want you to think about the sequence of events. The cue and your brain sounding the internal alarm. Think of this like the smoke detector in your house. All your brain and nervous system are good for is detecting the metaphorical smoke. They're not so good at deciphering and interpreting the perceived threats. So let's talk about an actual smoke detector for a minute. You have these in your home, multiple smoke detectors, most likely, hopefully. And smoke detectors have one job. They detect smoke. That's it. They go off when they detect smoke. They don't tell you what kind of smoke they're detecting. They don't tell you how much of it, or they don't tell you if it's a real emergency. Like they don't differentiate between the curtains are on fire or whether it's something totally minor like you burned the toast. Right? They have no spectrum of threat level. It's a binary system, on or off. Smoke equals alarm. Then it's up to you to do the dirty work and to figure out what's setting it off and whether there's any real danger or not. Folks, it's the same thing with your nervous system. It's a smoke detector in a lot of ways. It can perceive something icky in the environment, right? It can alert you that something is not okay, but it comes with absolutely no intel as to what the threat is, whether it's a big emergency or whether it's a minor annoyance, and it has no idea whether you need to panic or not. Like those first glimmers of anxiety, that first pull of, uh-oh, it's the smoke detector sounding the alarm. Now, what do most of us do? We just assume the curtains are on fire, right? That nervous system gets activated. The smoke detector goes off internally. We assume the curtains are on fire and we react or overreact accordingly, right? We freak out, we melt down, we lose it, all before we've taken a moment to truly assess the situation. And this moment where we pause and take a breath to see what's really happening, this is so powerful. It's so helpful because most of the time, it's just burnt toast. Like literally and metaphorically, right? How many times when your smoke detector has gone off, was there a real emergency? Honestly, for most of us, that answer is 0, thankfully. But we've all set the smoke detector off. Oops, right? And how many times is your internal alarm system going off that you really need it? Again, for most of us, rarely, if ever, do we really need the true power of our activated nervous systems. Like what? Maybe if you happen across a bad guy in an alley? I mean, I suppose we need a super quick reflex if we need to slam on the brakes to avoid hitting the car in front of us, right? Or if you're like reaching out to catch a child who's falling, something like that. But honestly, not often. Most of the time, our internal alarms go off. It's the equivalent of burnt toast. It's someone making a snide comment at us. It's that we didn't get invited to a dinner. It's that we're bickering with our partner. It's that we got passed up for a promotion or a job offer. It's expectations and pressures and responsibilities that we've blown way out of proportion. It's important, but it's like burnt toast important. Meaning the curtains are not on fire. So, anxiety as an alarm. You know I believe that anxiety is not a problem. We've talked about this before. I think thinking anxiety is a problem. And relatedly, it's treating anxiety as if the curtains are on fire every single time that's a problem. Like, what if anxiety isn't a problem? What if when the anxiety alarm goes off, we think, oh darn, burnt toast, and we just handle the situation with a very burnt toast approach, instead of treating the metaphorical burnt toast as if it were curtains on fire? You with me? It's when we're convinced that every alarm means the curtains are on fire that we're in trouble. That's what feels so terrible. That's what has us fearing and trying to avoid feeling anxious. If the feeling of anxiety, the physical sensations of anxiety, were simply signals that we'd burned the toast, we'd have a much more, well, what can you do, attitude about it, right? We'd have a much more, I can totally manage this attitude. We'd feel confident. We'd feel steady. We'd know that we can get through it because we know what to do with burnt toast. But if every time the alarm sounds, we hop to like we're the fire brigade here to save the house from going up in flames. We wind up feeling more than a little terrible, and we spend precious energy, effort, and time fighting fires that aren't real. Like it's an overly aggressive approach to burnt toast, right? So I offer this metaphor because I find it so helpful to sift. It's just like this mental imagery that's so helpful so that we can sift through the real versus perceived threats that our minds are constantly picking up on. There are so few real dangers, so few real threats that require this all-out, fully activated stress response reaction. And here's the kicker. Here's a good litmus test for you. When you need the full thing, like when that fight or flight stress response is actually appropriate, it doesn't feel terrible. It feels necessary. Like if you need to truly fight or flee for your life, you're perfectly glad your body has the ability to do that. It's only when you don't need it, which I'm guessing you've noticed is almost every single time you actually experience it, that's when it feels so awful and uncomfortable. Right? Does that make sense? Okay, finally, I did it. A truly short and sweet episode. I promise those sometimes, and I just keep on talking. But this one, well, like I think we're good. Burnt toast, curtains on fire. Simple metaphor, right? Treat anxiety as an alarm and be willing to pause and sift through what's what to discern whether the smoke detector that is your nervous system is sending up an alarm that there's a real emergency, or whether things have gone awry with breakfast. Okay? It's not the smoke detector's job to also judge the smoke and decide whether you need 911 or to just start over with the toast. That's your job. Same thing with your nervous system. It's simply sending up the signal. It's letting you know something's going on. Now, it's not going to do the whole job of also delivering the memo on threat level and reaction required, because that's your job, right? So I hope this is a helpful mental image. I hope it's a helpful metaphor in really thinking about when you feel anxious, when you feel that alarm of anxiety get activated, giving yourself a moment to pause and ask, is this burnt toast or are the curtains on fire? Meaning, is this something minor that doesn't feel good, that I don't like? Or is this a real emergency where my body needs to physically fight or flee in order to survive? Right? It could even be something in the middle there. There's kind of a spectrum and some gray area in there. But just asking yourself, is this more burnt toast or more curtains on fire? Yeah? All right. That's what I've got for you today. Anxiety as an alarm. Please, if you haven't already, take a quick moment to rate and review the show. And I will be back next week with more transforming anxiety. And until then, please take care. Do you have someone to help you with your stress, anxiety, worry, and overwhelm? If not, I would love to be your coach. The Fierce Calm Project is my virtual coaching program where we get to go in on topics like this one, and I can help you apply these lessons to your life so that you're creating your own transformation. We do live coaching calls, guided meditations, on-demand yoga classes. We hold book club where we read books your neighborhood book club won't, and there's lots of bonus content that I've created just for you. When you're ready to take what you're learning on the podcast to a whole other level, then come on over and check out the Fierce Calm Project at kellyhanlonmccormick.com/Fierce Calm Project.